In a galaxy far, far away, systems upon systems with varying life intelligence among species resided. Yet the galactic consciousness forgot a solar system and a world, the Milky Way galaxy, and Earth. In its long history, many astounding events had occurred, but none were as seismic as the advent of Marxism. On the mystical planet of Lothal lay a sacred gateway called the World Between Worlds, where all events in the galaxy, from past, present, and future, were present for the individual to process. The individual in question now is Princess Leia Organa, who led the Rebel Alliance to glory in the Galactic Civil War. For years, she was oblivious to the truth of her existence as a member of the Skywalker lineage, and grew to hate the injustices propagated by the Empire, and which were enforced by the ironclad Darth Vader. Leia was beyond humiliated to be related to such a monster who had committed atrocities against the people, against the workers who were exploited time and time again. It was not just the Empire, but even the Republic and the CIS corporatists that had preceded them, keeping power and profit ahead of the well being of those who they claimed to respect, to represent and respect. Despite Luke Skywalker's pride and loyalty to the Jedi, whom she had previously admired, Leia now saw it as a dogmatic cult, bent on keeping a hierarchical order where peace was limited to the powerful. The world between worlds was something that fascinated her, though. A gateway professed to access time and change. What was? Leia had realized one thing, though. She could rectify the atrocities of her father this way. Palpatine, the decadent fascist who had robbed liberty and justice from the galaxy, had ruined her family, and nothing would bring that or her beautiful mother Padme back from the dead. How she had so wished to meet her. Her faction fought against the Mun and Naimodian corporations and greedy senators who starved their populations. Accessing this domain required force connection, so she trained with Luke very hard and dedicatingly. Everything would change, and she would bring a paradise that would enlighten the galaxy. After her training was completed sufficiently, she came to the world between worlds and intended to access its vast expanse of events. All galactic events, once she observed them, were now made clear as day to Leia. Leia saw the conception of the galaxy to the birth of Anakin Skywalker and even the slaying of her mother Padme. While initially instilling rage within Leia, she realized that her father is being manipulated by Palpatine through his control throughout the Clone War. Anakin was once a literal slave, and Darth Vader was a metaphorical slave. What a pitiful life, Leia thought. Then one moment caught her attention, the destruction of an unknown planet that had long bitten the dust. Its name was Earth, although many languages that existed called it by other names. In the timeline of Earth, there was an ideology not realized in the contemporary or even ancient galactic history, called communism. It was realized by a man named Karl Marx, who saw the same kind of injustices on the poor and disenfranchised that Leia had come to see. Peering into their 19th century, which was a long, long, long time ago, she stole a copy of the Communist Manifesto written by that very man. Leia was addicted to his revolutionary council system, where society was managed by the workers, not bureaucrats or wealthy oligarchs. It then struck her that the manifesto called for a revolution to take place in an industrial society like Coruscant, but a planet like Anakin and Luke's birthplace, such as Tatooine, was also ripe for revolution as well. The corruption of the cartels and negligence of it by the Republic was very much like the Earth hellhole called the Russian Empire. There it lay. She would try the best of both worlds quite literally, and the Clone Wars was the best moment to intervene with a fiery red blaze. The Republic has long forgotten Tatooine, a corrupted planet ridden with crime. Its sands may have been representative of an age of prosperity, lost to the days of the High Republic, but in the day of the Clone War, it is seen as a planet of chattel slavery and enslavement of the so-called prole. Leia awoke to the dunes of the sandy world, and could see why her father and brother had a distaste for its near inhospitable climate. She made her way to a bar, and saw a man with a couple of slaves, which brought fury to her heart. While she had no respect for the figure that Anakin Skywalker had become, she understood and empathized with the turmoils of his upbringing. For now, she couldn't do much, but this solidified in her mind that the Republic had long forsaken this world to ruination. Leia had to make allies with like-minded individuals to stoke popular revolution, like Marx had professed in his text. And what she had seen in this so-called Russian Empire. In this land of peasants, Tatooine had intellectuals, and they would be the architects of the prototype workers' paradise in Coruscant. In a cantina, Leia found a young man with potential. He seemed to be a Tusken Raider by shape and scars, but did not wear an outfit primarily associated with them. She went to the dark spot where he was sitting and inquired quietly what his name was. He stated that it was Zach Thocht, but maintained that he wanted to be left alone. Leia then smiled warmly and asked whether he wanted to change the galaxy. Coldly, Zach began to refuse profusely, saying that he had tried helping his tribe to leave a lifestyle of bloodshed and violence against innocents, while turning a blind eye to oligarchy and the Hutts on Tatooine. Albeit when he questioned their savage ways, he was isolated by his family and community. All he asked was they leave this feudalistic lifestyle and benefit each other from industrial work. Leia told him to read this ancient and forgotten book titled The Communist Manifesto and said it may convince him. After reading it, his worldview was completely shifted. The cooperation between community and unity against oppressors like the Hutts who had ruined Tatooine was what the Tusken Raiders should be aiming towards. Zach made a slow nod to Leia as they got up, with Zach telling her, since the Tuscans were a tribe, this concept of social unity and solidarity with other workers could perhaps be influenced upon them. Over the next couple of days, Zach translated the manifesto into the Tuscan tongue. Then he traveled to his family and tried convincing them to abandon their lifestyle. The story he accompanied with Karl Marx's theory was the death of Shmi Skywalker, encouraging them to change, seeing how they embrace reason and how class consciousness could help them industrialize Tatooine and defeat their true enemies, the capitalists. Surprisingly, they agreed with Zach and became the first members of Leia's new group named the Galactic Workers' Party and were committed to proletarian liberation. But Leia understood one truth. Tatooine, at least, yet wasn't ripe for revolution. Rather, very much like the entity known as France on planet Earth, she had to strike a more advanced planet with a mistreated populace more willing and able to rise for the communist cause. This being Coruscant. Thus, Leia, Zach, and her new followers were ready to depart for Coruscant, where not only her future workers in arms lay, but also her mother and senator of Naboo. Despite this massive blockade, Leia and her followers hired a smuggler from the White Worm's criminal syndicate to help them enter Coruscant. While Leia was against the criminal scum, she had no choice but to play the long game. What shocked her was the identity of this man, her to-be husband, Han Solo. He was quite a cocky boy who told her for the right price she could be smuggled anywhere in the galaxy she wanted. Dead set on the revolution, she demanded to be flown to the lower levels of Coruscant, and Han was suspicious but thought it wasn't his business to question the finer details. When Leia reached Coruscant with her loyal followers and Zack, they wasted no time reaching the lower levels. Here lay the desolate members of Coruscant, so forgotten they might as well not be people at all. Leia felt tempted to encourage Han Solo to come with her, but knew petty feelings couldn't deviate her from her mission. Standing at a crossroads within the lower levels, she resembled a beacon of change, uniting beings of different races and backgrounds. She began to preach about how the Republic had forgotten about the industrial proletariat of Coruscant, how they had become simple statistics instead of beings whose opinions meant something. This caused crowds to gather, listening to the hooded woman and her company, calling themselves the Red Fighters League. Leia went by the codename Red. By initiating class consciousness and spreading the gospel of Marx through copies of his books collected from her time in The World Between Worlds and translated by her into Galactic Standard, it gained her both positive and negative traction. The bottom levels of Coruscant began to erupt into unprecedented violence known as the Troubles. More people would join the Red Fighters League, which would be only the stepping stone to the eventual Communist Party of Coruscant, which would later be a subsection within the Galactic Communist Party. Zack would lead raids on clone troopers, and soon the party would stockpile weapons from Republic shipments to the planet. The pent up chaos would erupt at the moment dubbed the October Revolution. With weapons and supplies being looted by the Forgotten Underground, the Senate now had a reason to care. Leia hacked into the HoloNet with the help of the underlevel intelligentsia who had joined her. She said that the underlevel citizens of Coruscant had enough of the capitalists and the Jedi who prioritized protecting the wealthy over the clear majority. She didn't want to come to this, but there was no other way than armed revolution. Leia also encouraged surface dwellers who felt tired of Palpatine's warmongering to take up arms. The next part was addressed to the clones, who Leia claimed were treated like droids by the Republic and dirt that was sacrificable. The Jedi could have intervened but are complacent. She also revealed that there were secret inhibitor chips that Palpatine had secretly been programming to have contingency orders within them that would essentially turn them into nothing more than droids of Palpatine and the Senate, and how they were being treated as nothing more than lapdogs of the greater elite. And by leaking evidence from the future that implicated Palpatine as a Sith Lord and as the mastermind behind causing both sides of the war, this escalated what would become a galaxy spanning revolution in both Republic and Separatist systems. Clones defected en masse from the Republic from many different galactic fronts to the Red Army, and fled their posts to go to Coruscant after removing their chips. The damning evidence against Palpatine and the Jedi's rigidity was undeniable, as the people stormed the Senate, along with their new clone brothers, with full force. Leia led the Red Army with Zack, and with her orange lightsaber, prioritizing her belief that she was not part of either the Republic's Jedi cult nor the Sith cult, both symbolizing capitalist and anti worker ideals. And thus, with her lightsaber, she fought the capitalist Jedi, defending the greedy senators. In the time planning, the Tusken Raiders had become commanders in the Red Army, teaching able bodied recruits their strategy of war. This came in handy with the defending clones in Jedi, where they had to combat unorthodox guerrilla warfare, and the clones had to confront and combat their brothers, who were still loyal to Palpatine slash the Jedi slash the Senators, over the people they were meant to protect and who they were taught to protect from birth. Yeah, High Council was confronting Darth Sidious now, and thus even clone troopers with still with their inhibitor chips couldn't have their chips activated. A bloodbath began where senators were slaughtered like ones from Rylot who grew fat at the expense of his world. Leia established the People's Directory, where officials like Masameda were put to death without trial. Darth Sidious defeated each member of the High Council present and was fighting Yoda, Mace Windu, and the famed Anakin and Obi-Wan, along with Ahsoka, were off-world. As the Senate pod lowered down, Yoda was shocked at the regular citizens and clones slaughtering the corrupt bureaucracy. Leia, who was using her rage to cut down the clones and petty Jedi, foolishly defending their bureaucratic overlords, saw Sidious as a perfect example to the galaxy. She used the Force techniques and mastery inherited both from Anakin and Luke to catch Sidious off guard and bring him to the center of the hollow projector. She then proclaimed the center of corruption, Palpatine, would die, and she would behead him while he would be in complete shock at this being's cunning and power. As Yoda would question whether Red was a Sith, she would laugh, exclaiming that she didn't believe in either petty religion, claiming that the galaxy would be reborn in state atheism after this patriotic war. Yoda's blindness was his undoing, as the people brought him to die by Leia's blade, just like Sidious. With both pillars of light and dark dead, the galaxy, contrary to Marx's utopian vision, went to hell, with balance and the destruction completely of the capitalist order, not brought by reforms but by violence, led to nothing but hellfire. The people went too far, as all the senators were executed, including her mother. That was her purpose, to unite her family in peace. Yet it was destroyed in bloodshed, as even Anakin went on a rampage after sensing the death of his wife, blaming it on this new internationalist movement. And he was the centerpiece of the new White Army, as the poster boy of the Republic could not stand for the destruction of everything that he was fighting for. With the execution of Order 99, the Separatists broke apart as the droids crippled the movement, and the senators learned of the greedy nature of the corporatists. And seeing as they were also for alien rights and the destruction of the established hierarchy, they merged their movement into the Comintern. After brutal fighting, Leia had no choice but to slay her father, as he was against proletarian liberation, and she proclaimed the Union of Galactic Socialist Republics. But she realized that with the death of both of her parents, it created a paradox where she could no longer exist, and realized that although she had brought justice to the workers, it had instead only crippled the galaxy even further into constant war and bloodshed without truly taking time to fix everybody's problems. By trying to fight against totalitarianism, she became the very thing she swore to destroy, as famine and mismanagement of the economy became rampant, leaving the family and galaxy she cherished to rot in agony, dissipating in a red blaze.